A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Bum.
If you want to know how we actually fight back against the Hollywood Matrix, you don't do it by returning to the corporate carvery and riding the coattails of a legacy blockbuster. This week we need to chew on something a little bit more challenging to the system. We have to show up for the glitches. We have to support the movies that bled out on festival screens to earn their distribution, instead of being reverse engineered in a boardroom. This week I got two massive glitches at the cinema, Damian McCarthy's Hokum and Ben Wheatley's Normal, and both of them are anchored by men who are actively blowing up their own demographic data.
Okay, I'm gonna save it with the solo.
Bow, bow, I'm dead, and I can sing high like that.
Getting old sucks.
The predictive algorithms running the studios rely on one fundamental rule: putting actors in boxes and keeping them there. If a studio machine looks at Adam Scott, it sees the guy from Step Brothers singing Guns N' Roses in a car.
I'm your dad. I'm just kidding, your dad's dead.
Or the guy asking,
Are we having fun yet?
they label him in a permanent, safe comedy asset. Bob Odenkirk, they see the 90s sketch comic from Mr. Show. But human ambition doesn't care about data. Adam Scott pivoted through the brilliant, sterile dread of Severance, and he's now decided to lead a surreal, terrifying indie horror. Funny man Bob Odenkirk defied his recategorization through Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and decided to become a hyper-violent action star in his 60s. And Odenkirk didn't wait for the algorithm to accidentally cast him. He put his own skin in the game. He actively produced the Nobody franchise, forcing the studio system to accept his evolution. And now he's leading a kinetic, blood-soaked neo-western with Ben Wheatley directing. To the machine, these career trajectories are a quadrant mismatch. They're catastrophic financial risks.
Let's fuck. Let's fuck. Let's fucking fuck each other now. Yeah, fuck the kids. That's going too far. I'm not gonna do that.
But as we get older and hold cinema to a higher standard, it's exactly the kind of friction we should go and see. This is what happens when you let algorithms starve and humans cook. So let's talk firstly about Hokum.
Long ago.
Look, halfway through this thing, I found myself genuinely questioning why I paid money to subject myself to this in a dark theatre. And I mean that in the highest possible compliment. It's a wildly effective, genuinely unsettling horror movie. Damian McCarthy doesn't need a CGI budget or a mathematically verified jump scare quota to build tension. Even the scares that feel like jumps aren't actually jumps, they're meticulously constructed tension release valves that feel entirely earned. He builds dread with geography. The action's almost entirely contained to the hotel, and more specifically a few rooms in that hotel. But McCarthy maps out the physical space so perfectly, you know exactly where the doors are, where the shadows are, and exactly what shouldn't be standing in them. The horror operates on two distinct tracks. Firstly, you've got this Irish folklore and the witch, and the script sets the rules up with incredible clarity right at the beginning. Then it confidently puts that threat on the shelf, lets it sit there in the back of your mind until it's time to take it down and use it. But really, the backbone of this movie is Adam Scott. I don't know if he was the first choice for this or he's actively sniffed the script out, but he's excellent in it. But let's be clear, he plays an absolute arsehole, a horrible, irredeemable person. Framing him as a bleak, despairing novelist is a great touch, and the entire first third of the movie, you're actively sitting there just hoping bad things happen to him. But then, no spoilers, something genuinely unsettling happens with his character. The film executes this massive, disturbing pivot that completely reframes the remaining runtime. Suddenly his guilt becomes a driving force of the narrative. I don't want to say that this film wouldn't work without Adam Scott in it, but he undeniably elevates the material. And that is the human friction we talk about on this channel. You can't get that kind of complex, ugly emotional pivot from an algorithm. The rest of the cast is incredibly solid, even when they're making absolutely terrible, fundamentally irrational choices that horror demands to keep the plot moving. They each bring something authentic to the table. Their roles are lean into tropes, sure, but they never cross the line into a cheap caricature. It isn't flawless though, it's got an odd structure, and McCarthy really ekes out every drop from the premise. It's well crafted kind of onion peel that slowly draws to its climax without ever outstaying its welcome, even if it does test our attention a few times along the way. And the movie bookends the narrative with actual footage of events from Adam Scott's character's novel, and honestly it's the one time it just felt too heavy-handed, where you just kind of want to look at the screen and you just want it to push on. We get it, stop slapping us with your metaphors here. Honestly though, the most telling part of the entire film happens before the first frame. Much like Good Boy, where I literally crammed my entire review into the time it took for the production logos to finish, Hokum features about 10 different title cards showing the massive variety of funds that made this project happen, stretching from Ireland all the way to the UAE. And for me, I've spoken about it before, this is the new standard bearer for cinema. These logos meant 10 different international funds had to be individually pitched. Actual human beings had to be convinced of this project's worth. This wasn't an Amazon MGM spreadsheet, ticking off a four-quadrant market, securing an M&M sponsorship. It was willed into existence through pure, undeniable friction. Ultimately, Hokum is a great film. It completely earns every drop of its dread. Adam Scott stared at the algorithm's barrel, pivoted to the unexpected, and it works. Smaller independent horror really getting its flowers at the moment, and we're going to have more to say about that before May is over. But let's step out of the surreal dread and into the violently absurd. We've got another veteran doing exactly the same thing. After watching Nobody 1 and 2, seeing Bob Odenkirk wield a weapon isn't exactly a shock to the system anymore. But what Normal delivers is an inoffensive, incredibly fun little Fargo meets Hot Fuzz romp. Ben Wheatley isn't exactly reinventing the wheel here. At times this whole thing comes across as a budget Edgar Wright move. But it works precisely because of how jarring it is. You know what's coming, even then the pivot from the quirky Fargo small town energy into the hyper-violence, it's such a sudden flip. The algorithm would demand a mathematically paced build-up. The safety holds the violence back to the third act, but Wheatley just drops the clutch somewhere in the first act. The movie just throws its hands up, abandons the build-up and says, alright, no more quirky build-up, let the splatter commence. It immediately shifts gears into this kinetic, bullet train, John Wick-lite vibe. It's exactly the kind of jagged, uncalculated tonal whiplash that the spreadsheet would try and smooth out. The supporting cast jumps around a bit. Lena Headey's in it, but it feels like they only had her for about 2 days of filming and she's just like a little aside character for what's ultimately a breezy 90-minute movie. And honestly, that's the beauty of this. Do you know what the sociopathic spreadsheet hates more than anything? A tight, unpretentious, mid-budget 90-minute B-movie. Honestly, the two glitches that we got, Hokum is undeniably the one that's going to stay with me, and I mean that for all the wrong reasons. It is far more memorable, and frankly, I'm just glad I don't have to sleep in a honeymoon suite anytime soon. Both of these films are essential. Go see Hokum, go see Normal. Support the weird, sweaty anomalies and the actors who refuse to stay in their boxes. Because if you love the medium of film, you're going to get sick of oats. You can't survive on a diet of mathematically calibrated safe studio content. You need the cinematic street food just to keep your system honest. Movies like Hokum and Normal aren't designed for a clean, frictionless experience. But the truth is, the Hollywood Matrix isn't just a math problem, it's a biological one. If you just stick to the corporate studio mandated carvery, you're not going to get bored, you're going to get gout.
Would you like to know more?
Movies, popcorn.